weather. Geometry sets the winter weather. Breath condensing into frozen needles. No mercy for the weak and feeble. Crackle sap inside the pine trunks. Bones vibrating like the iron chunks. Sunlight turn into a pale gray. Scanning data on the final day. Ribcage lock into the metal shield. Physics ruling on the killing field. Ligaments stretching on the granite ledge. Walking blind along the system edge. Nerve endings firing like an overload. Reading winter as a deadly code. Vertebrae stacking for the cold impact. Signing glaciers as a legal pact. The latitude of death is cold and still. We weld the iron to the bone and will calibrate the marrow in the frozen grits. The data dump is where the skulls are lit. Skulls are lit. Determine the velocity of ice and blood. Kick the system through the frozen mud. Ancient hardware in a modern frame. Only fossils recollect your name. Scan the fascia of the dying kin. Liquid nitrogen underneath the skin. Femur shattering against the frost. Calculating what the flesh has lost. Tendon snapping like a copper wire. Winter logic is the only fire. Jawbone running on a bitter pill. Execution of the winter will. Blood flow stalling in the artery. Mapping terror in the nursery. Clutching axes with a lock grip. Watching every single lifeline slip. Nerve endings firing like an overload. Reading winter as a deadly code. Vertebrae stacking for the cold impact. Signing glaciers as a legal pact. The latitude of death is cold and still. We weld the iron to the bone and will calibrate the marrow in the frozen grit. The data dump is where the skulls are lit. Skulls are lit. Terminal velocity of ice and blood. Kick the system through the frozen mud. Ancient hardware in a modern frame. Only fossils recollect your name. Cold is the algorithm. Death is the rhythm. Death is the rhythm. Skull is the housing. Fear is the browsing. Ribs are the armor for the failing pump. Dump the consciousness into the slump. Hand on the hill with the nerves on fire. Climbing the tower with the frozen spire. Algorithm separating weak from strong. Echoes vibrating in the battle song. Velvet shining on the frozen ground. Physics killing every single sound. Blood cells freezing in a grid of gray. Nothing is left of the light of day. Ice sockets empty in the blizzard blast. System failure at the very last. Muscle fiber turning into stone. Sealing the legacy within the bone. The latitude of death is cold and still. We weld the iron to the bone and will calibrate the marrow in the frozen grit. The data dump is where the skulls are lit. Skulls are lit. Terminal velocity of ice and blood. Kick the system through the frozen mud. Ancient hardware in a modern frame. Only fossils recollect your name. Structure frozen. No reboot for the living. Just the physics of the fjord.
Carved oak, so crimson on the altar base. Digital alignment in a warrior's face. Steam rising from open veins, hot and thick. Mechanical logic makes the
pulse clock tick.
I rep the geometry of the fresh kill. Calibration stable by the iron will. Ribs crack open like a heavy gate.
Input data.
Execute the fate. Cartilage and copper in the frozen mud. Calculating value of the offered blood. Bones are the chassis, skin is the hull. Logic is the blade inside the hollow skull.
System check.
Nerves on fire.
Sacrifice.
The only wire.
Hardware.
Bone and steel.
Reality.
The only real.
Cold
Cold blood on the stone, grinding marrow, shattering bone, raven feather on the frozen snow. Data for the gods, watch it flow. Axe in hand, system reboot, ancient power, bitter fruit, tensile strength in the war machine. Clean cut death, keep the surface lean. Silver amulets vibrate with dread, scanning the anatomy of the newly dead. Tendon tension in the right hand grip, binary instruction, let the radius slip. Femur shatters with a precise sound. Gravity is law upon this hallowed ground. Processing the omega in the central nerve, getting the dominance we rightly deserve. Circuitry of sinew power in the thigh, 0 and 1 under winter sky. Skull plates grinding in a rhythmic mesh. Old god hunger needs the modern flesh.
System check.
Nerves on fire,
Sacrifice.
the only wire.
Hardware.
Bone and steel,
Reality.
the only real. Cold blood on the stone, grinding marrow, shattering bone, raven feather on the frozen snow. Data for the gods, watch it flow. Axe in hand,
System reboot.
ancient power,
Bitter fruit.
tensile strength in the war machine.
Clean cut death, keep the surface lean.
Golden ash, iron will, blood is data, ready for the kill. Golden ash, iron will, blood is data, ready for the kill. A single raven tiger dropped on the ice, calculating cost of the human price. Spine is a pillar, a vertical beam, hard-coded violence, the optimal scheme. Connected tissue snapping like a broken link. Watch the red liquid hit the right in sync. Frequency modulation in the battle cry, kinetic energy when the hatchets fly. Lungs are bellows, heart is the pump. Over the corpses we take the jump. Mandible crushing teeth on the floor. This is the upgrade, this is the war. Cold blood on the stone, grinding marrow, shattering bone, raven feather on the frozen snow. Data for the gods, watch it flow. Axe in hand,
System reboot.
ancient power,
Bitter fruit.
tensile strength in the war machine.
Clean cut death, keep the surface lean.
Calibration complete. Blood loop synchronized. Bones remain, steel remains, cold remains.
Counting ribs inside this cage of bone. Code is geometry, I sit alone. Leather belt is tight and notches. New shrunken stomach has no work to do. Eyes are sunken in a hollow skull. Edge of the logic is never dull. Grinding teeth to dust inside the dark. Ready for the kinetic spark. I am the system stripped to the fat, pure war physics. I am molded that muscles are wiry cables of steel. Losing the excess, losing the meal. I am the weapon, hollow and light. Calibrated for the final bite. Bone and iron, iron and bone. Stripping the flesh from the northern throne. I am the hardware built to endure. Data in marrow, cold and pure. Grind the teeth, lock the jaw. I am the new physical law. Yo, chewing in the dried up wolves in new. Processing the strength to push it through. Calibrate the wrist hinge, test the torque. Carve the system with the iron fork. Shield wall physics, calculate the mass. Shatter the hardware, let the signal pass. Distal nerves are firing, optic sync. I do not feel, I do not blink. Thermal imaging, the blood is ice. Life as a terminal sacrifice. Scanning the horizon, bone dry frame. 0% of the fat of the shame. Sink the marrow, sink the bones. Sink the marrow, sink the bones. Sink the marrow, sink the bones. Sink the marrow, sink. Spinal column is a data spine. Cross the geometry, hold the the line, tendons attention ready to snap. I am the vector, I am the trap. No room for pity, no room for breath. High-speed processing, feel the death. Accessing fury, eluding the soft. Raise the iron, standard aloft. Shrunken stomach is a hollow core. Powering the engine, seeking the war. Vector calculation, axe to the head. Living on nothing, walking the dead. I am the weapon, hollow and light, calibrated for the final bite. Bone and iron, iron and bone, stripping the flesh from the northern throne. I am the hardware built to endure, data in marrow, cold and pure. Grind the teeth, lock the jaw. I am the new physical law. Not a soul left, only the code. Down the skeletal warrior road. Strip the muscles, strip the skin. Let the calibration begin. And earth's on fire, bone on bone, sitting on a skeleton throne. Calibrate, 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 calibrate. I am the axe at the gates of fate. Bone cold, bone dry, bone deep, no sleep. Bone law, bone cold, bone dry, bone deep, no sleep. Bone law. Leather belt is on the final hole. Counting ribs is the only goal. Morphish sinew flavor of the end. Broken hardware that I cannot mend. Hollow skulls in the fireless room, mapping the geometry of doom. Skin is paper, stretched on the frame. I have forgotten my human name.
On pale cheeks, through the valley the fire speaks. I watch the geometry of falling wood. I read the mirror as I know I should. The thermal code in the ancient beam, breaking the soft man's coward dream. Calculated heat at 1,000 degrees, bending the ash and the will to its knees. Rusty grain in the granary floor. Panic is the data at the center of war. I calibrate the flicker in the height, setting the synapse of the world alight. Melting gold coins in the muddy rut, closing the system that was never shut. I map the structural failure of that one simple strike of a calculated match.
Ash in the lungs and the data is clear.
Burn it all down.
The thesis of vengeance is all that we hear.
Crush the crowd.
Calcify ribs in a frozen display.
Watch the gray.
The code of the wolf in a new era way.
Force the play. Check the peripheral view of the gate. Processing death is a tangible state. Char roof beams are collapsing down into the dirt of the southern town. I see the nervous system start to fray in the kinetic shadow of the end of the day. No redemption in the coroner, just pure machinery within the dark. I measure cartilage against the blade. This is the contract that the ancestors made. System reboot in the marrow and bone, sitting secure on a burning throne. Smell the panic like a chemical scent. Total erasure of the time they spent. I mark the coordinates of every spine, tracking the war in a linear line. The kinematics of fire do not lie. The smoke is a script written into the sky. We calculate impact in tendon and nerve, getting the slaughter that they all deserve. There is no pity in the iron law, just a release of the digital jaw. Hard data points in the blackened remains, freezing the fluid inside
Of their veins.
the Permafrost waits for the ember to die. I watch the cinders erase the sky. The oxygen levels are dropping to zero. There is no story and there is no hero, only the logic of conditions. consumed by flame, deleting the root and deleting the name. I catch the suit on the side of my face, preparing to leave, not a single trace. The gold is liquid and sinking in grime, outside the bounds of the liner time. Calibrate axes and calibrate hay, locking the fossilized gears of fate. The Valkyrie sits on the edge of the hill, enforcing the total fate. One final pulse in the cold Nordic air, nothing but bone and a vacant stare.
Ash in the lungs and the data is clear.
Burn it all down.
The physics of vengeance is all that we hear.
Crush the crowd.
Calcified ribs in a frozen display.
Watch the gray.
The code of the wolf in a new era way.
Force the play. Day is day. The hall is a grave. Nothing to keep, nothing to say. Metal clanking on stone.
Of absolute zero input, ISIS fusing to the heavy boot foot. Knee-deep geometry in level white waste. Frozen saliva has a metallic blood taste. Beard is a mask made of crystalline frost. Vector is fixed and the lexicon is lost. No vocal cord vibrates within the neck hollow. Only the marrow and the command left to follow. Calibrate the femur to the angle of the slope. Sever the nerve endings, killing off the hope. Ligaments stretching like a tight dying cable. Body is a machine now, unwilling and unable to process the data of the pain in the joint. Marching to the final geographic point. Axe on the shoulder is a part of the frame. No one remembers a syllable of their name. Crunch of 300 boots in the snow. Data of war in the valley below. Crush every fibula, snap every bone. Kingdom of minus 1,000 alone. Hey. 1,000 alone. Numb toes hitting on a hidden rock shelf. Nerve damage mapping out the loss of the self. Sub-zero logic in the pumping of the ventricle. Every single cadence is mechanically identical. Oxygen is thin inside the burning lung sac. Weight of the hardware is breaking down the back. No one is speaking, it is banned by the law. Keep the piston moving in the hinge of the jaw. Armor is calibrated tight to the skin, where the laws of the physics and the winter begin. Shield is an extension of the radius and Nona. Walking through the static of the frozen white trauma. Scanning the horizon for a thermal trace sign. Keeping the geometry of the vanguard line. Synchronized attrition in the tundra breeds space. Hard-coded fury on the warrior face. Crunch of 300 boots in the snow. Data of war in the valley below. Crush every fibula, snap every bone. Kingdom of minus 1,000 alone. Tapping on the organ mask type, processing the darkness of the permanent night. Skin is turning leathery and gray like the lead. Walking is the only thing separating the dead. Blood in the capillaries turning to slush. Feel the system failure in the stifling hush. White out algorithm blinding the sight. 30 days of marching through the cellular blight. Teeth are grinding down to the gum and the root. Iron in the sinew and the steel in the boot. Ancient tussle fuel in the beating of the valve. No remedy or ointment and no chemical salve. Just a hard strike of the heel on the crust, converting all the calcium to powder and dust. Total termination of the auditory path. This is the We are athletic of Nordic wrath, Boffin cartilage snapping like a twig, graved in the permafrost scenes we predict. We are the vectors of the glacial might, crushing down the skeleton with kinetic light. Crunch of 300 boots in the snow, data of war in the valley below. Crush every fibula, snap every bone. Kingdom of -1,000 alone. 1,000 alone. Step 100,000. 100,000.
Shield wall shattered on the tundra floor. My ribs are locking at the engine core. Bone marrow turning into frozen lead. Zero emotions in the synapse thread. Ice crystals forming on eyelashes now. No sweat of terror on the warrior brow. The geometry of death is perfect math. A digital code on the Viking path.
Pulse, drop into 40 beats per minute.
The system stalls, there is no stay within it.
Veins retreating deep into muscle tissue.
Cold protocol is the only issue.
Pulse, drop into 40 beats per minute.
The Arctic code, I am locked within it.
Blue lips pressed together under the snow.
The kinetic data is starting to slow. Calibrate with the cortex for the killing tide. Ancient axes on the data side. My tendons stiffen like a bow of steel. The laws of physics are the only field. Blue lips pressed together in the drift. The tectonic plates of the sternum shift. Scanned by ravens in the binary cloud. Frozen skin is the only shroud. Bones of iron, nerves of glass. Watch the seconds of the cycle pass. Bones of iron, nerves of glass. Watch the seconds of the cycle pass. Blood is thickening like heavy oil deep within the sub-zero soil. The femur acts as a structural beam. Life is a glitch in the static stream. Processing pain through a logic gate. The berserker program will recalculate. No adrenal spike in the ventricle wall. The war hymn rises as the systems fall.
Drop into 40 beats per minute.
The system stalls, there is no stay within it.
Veins retreating deep into muscle tissue.
Cold protocol is the only issue.
Pulse, dropping to 40 beats per minute.
The Arctic code, I am locked within it.
Blue lips pressed together under the snow.
The kinetic data is starting to slow. Hard drive hidden in the hollow skull. The sensory input is void and null. Vertebrae clicking in a frozen grow. The hydraulics of the warrior start to go. Ice crystals storming on eyelashes fast. The biological limit is surpassed at last. Oxygen levels in the plasma thin. I am the predator inside the skin. 40 beats, 40 beats. Gravity pulls where the oxygen retreats. 40 beats, 40 beats. Victory is found where the warmth defeats. Veins retreating deep into muscle tissue. We are the glitch, we are the issue. Jaw is locking on the frozen bit. The final sequence has now been lit. My spine is a cable of braided wire. I have extinguished the internal fire. Skeleton brand in the permafrost rave. The system commands what the nerves cannot save. Reduced to the minimum operating course. The Viking machine will follow the course.
Pulse, dropping to 40 beats per minute.
The system stalls, there is no stay within it.
Veins retreating deep into muscle tissue.
Cold protocol is the only issue.
Pulse, dropping to 40 beats per minute.
The Arctic code, I am locked within it.
Blue lips pressed together under the snow.
The kinetic data is starting to slow. Pulse 39, crossing the line. Pulse 38, closing the gate.
fingertips gripping a hilt, iron calibration, home by the will. Nerves misfiring under numb skin, calculated damage from the outside in. Peripheral data, cold light on the snow, mapping the trauma blow by blow. Spitting blood into a wooden bowl, physical metrics, total control. Bone and ash, crush and smash. Iron will, born to kill. I count the fractures 1 to 9, scanning the leaks in the vertebrae line. The grinding sound of a cracked rib, structural failure, discard the lib. Geometry shifting, shoulder out of place. Reset the joint with the stone face. Suture the flesh with the coarse thread. Binary logic, the weakness is dead. Frostbite black on the knuckle and blade. Processing debt that the ancestors paid. Kinetic impact, marrow and steel. Ignore the signal of the phantom feel. Ligament stretching, tension is high. Red on the ground under war-torn sky. Archiving pain like a ledger of war. Feed the machine and then ask for more. Valhalla cold in the thunder and ice. Paying the wages, paying the price. Axe in the hand and the iron in vein. We are the masters of systemic pain. Valhalla cold in the thunder and ice. Paying the wages, paying the price. Axe in the hand and the iron in vein. We are the masters of systemic pain. Scanning the horizon, eyes turning gray. Thermal exhaustion, the price we pay. No tears in the camp, just the grit and the grind. War is the clock and we are the time. Calibration stable, the axes are clean. Cold flesh housing a killing machine. System reboot, I stand on the gore. Kick down the gate and I hammer the door. Vertebrae locked in a stance of death. Frozen vapor on every breath. Tendon and torque, the lever is set. Clearing the gap with a violent threat. Ravens are circling, data is clear. We are the source of the ultimate fear. Bone and ash, crush and smash. Iron will, born to kill. My ribs are a cage for a furnace of hate. Processing trauma, accepting the fate. Anatomical limits pushed to the edge. Driving the spell like a heavy iron wedge. Skin is a map of the battles I won. Scanning the damage until it is done. Spitting dark fluid, clearing the throat. Right in the saga in the bloodstained coat. Valhalla code in the thunder and ice. Paying the wages, paying the price. Axe in the hand and the iron in vein. We are the masters of systemic pain. Valhalla code in the thunder and ice. Paying the wages, paying the price. Axe in the hand and the iron in vein. We are the masters of systemic pain. Nerve endings burning. The tie is turning. Frozen wasteland. Steel in the hand. Calibration set. No regret, no regret, no regret. No regret, da-da-dum-dum, da-da-dum. No regret, da-da-dum-dum, da-da-dum. Scrapping on the parchment hide. I'm at the vector where the weak have died. The fire is failing in the copper grate. Cross the names to reduce the freight. A line of black through a proctor's face. There is no value in wasted space. The calculation is a sharpened edge. I drive the numbers like a splitting wedge. 1-0 the bone, the snow. 1-0 the data, the blow. 1-0 the marrow, the ice. We pay the rage, yeah, we pay the price. Tendon snap in the western trench. I smell the copper in the iron stench. The carbon marker is my only tool to govern life by a hardware rule. I count the rations in the package meat against the friction of the frozen feet. We lack the fuel for the cardiac pump. Dump the load in the garbage dump. In extent, the blade finds the gap. A sudden end to the synapse map. A mercy kill is a system boot. Pull the marrow
arrow from the rotten root. My radiograph shows a fractured spine. I scrub the data from the back toe line. No time for friction in the bloodstream flow. We leave the damage in the drifting snow.
The geometry of survival is clear.
We kill the weakness, we kill the fear.
Calibrate the angle, calibrate the steel.
The bone is the only truth that is real.
The marrow is low, guys.
The ribs are the core.
Light and the burden.
Clear the road. Distance divided by the meat. We keep the valley ahead is rugged and steep. I scan the horizon for a signal flare. Ice crystals build in my matted hair. Eliminate the variable of the wound. The dead are better when they are unfound. I calculate the burn of the glucose store and lock the latch on the bunker door.
My corneas freeze to a polished gray. The Latin sigh of mercy fades away. Optic nerves are a frozen wire. I extinguish the spark of the mortal fire. Unreadable data in the poop pill void. All software feeling is now destroyed. I am the margin in the skin and hide. Seeing the better where the fractals die. The geometry of survival is clear.
We kill the weakness, we kill the fear.
Calibrate the angle, calibrate the steel.
The bone is the only truth that is real.
The marrow is law, guys.
The ribs are the core.
Light in the burden.
Clear the road.
Dome seal grid code.
Doing what the numbers told.
Charcoal mark on the empty page.
Enter in the winter age.
Scanning the walnut as wood by this grid. Decrypting the secrets the ancestors hid. Processing movement, I read every frame. Iron and marrow, the end of the game. Targeting vitals, I calibrate force. Plotting the fracture along the true course. Gripping the axe shaft until knuckles turn white. Waiting for data to bleed into light. Gap between helmet and gorget is thin. 4 inches wide for the blade to slide in. Sweat on the chainmail, quite freezes to bead. Calculated violence is all that I need. Blown in the metal, the geometry bleeds. We are the hardware the war council needs. X in the socket, the system is raw. Gravity rules as the only true law. Fracture the fibula, sever the node. Crushing the logic, deleting the code. Marrow is data, the slaughter is clean. Man is the motor, the war is machine. Analyzing the angle to smack the kneecap. Visualizing the bones as they suddenly snap. 90 degrees is the optimal strike. Feeding the ravens the Karen they like. Identify tendons that anchor the shield. Force them to fail in the center of field. Isolate nerves near the base of the spine. Cross-reference depth with the slaughter design. No room for honor, no room for the breath. Only the physics of mechanical death. Calibrate muscles, the biceps are wired. Physical limits is all that's required. Holding the metal, the geometry bleeds. We are the hardware the war council needs. Axe in the socket, the system is raw. Gravity rules as the only true law. Fracture the fibula, sever the node. Crushing the logic, deleting the code. Marrow is data, the slaughter is clean. Man is the motor, the war is machine. Hammer to the ribcage wall. Every single pillar must fall. Liquid in the pulmonary tract. Physical reality is fact. Ligaments are snapping like wire. Punching every spark of the fire. Pressure on the carotid is high. Processing the moment they die. Initiate impact, the velocity climbs. Executing judgment for ancient crimes. Rims are just cages for pumping the silt. Architecture breaking however it's built. Slicing the radius, cutting the owner. Cold is the status, the win for his opponent. Kinetic energy stored in the wrist. Target removed from the active list. Input the drama, the output is red. Verify status, the enemy's dead. Upload the glory to Hall of the Slain. Nothing but lovers and piercing the brain. Bone in the metal, the geometry infantry bleeds. We are the hardware the war council needs. Stacks in the socket, the system is raw. Gravity rules as the only true law. Fracture the fibula, sever the node. Crushing the logic, deleting the code. Marrow is data, the solder is clean. Man is the motor, the war is machine. Man is the motor, the war is machine. System is stable. Calculations complete. Marrow is frozen. Victory is meat. Cold front incoming, the system is locked. U-wood is bending, the chamber is cocked. Pupil is shrinking to pinpoint the glow. Campfire geometry starts at the bow. Ridge line elevation calculates high. Scanning the perimeter under the sky. Feathers are brushing the frozen right cheek. Logic is hard and the target is weak. Anatomy freezes in sub-zero air. Processing movement, ignoring the glare. Coordination of tendon and nerve. Mapping the distance, the drop and the curve. Input the variables, factor the sleet. Subject is rendered of pixels of heat. Oxygen levels descend in the chest. Biological engines are put to the test. Radius ulna locked in the stance.
Eliminate random, eliminate chance.
Radius ulna locked in the stance.
Eliminate random, eliminate chance. Nerve endings firing a binary pulse. Nothing remains for the mind to repulse. Calibration complete on the scapular bone. Unit is isolated, standing alone. Thermal detection of enemy ranks. Sama Rosetta on lateral flanks. Friction is minimal, surface is dry. Extracting the vector from center to eye. Meta copper resistance is twist on the string. Wait for the signal, the rhythm will bring. Atmospheric pressure is entered as code. Heavy the payload is starting to load. Muscular tissue is stretching to peak. Metal and mineral no longer weak. Vertebrae stacking a vertical tower. Absolute physics is absolute power.
Radius ulna locked in the stance.
Eliminate random, eliminate chance.
Radius ulna locked in the stance.
Eliminate random, eliminate chance.
Radius ulna locked in the stance. Radius ulna locked in the stance.
Eliminate random, eliminate chance. Heart muscle pausing at end of the scale. Wait for the gap in the force of the gale. Pulse is suspended at 0.4. Opening up the mechanical door.
Release! Release! Release!
Kinetic energy exit the frame. Target identified. Don't you by name. Projectile is moving through rabbit. Identistic neck in the first zebra brighter. Crushing the lyrics and pace in the skin. Logical outcome, the system will win. Skeletal structure is broken to shards. It roll them emotions of all in the guards. Bone marrow leaking on frozen terrain. Clearing the buffer of feedback and pain. Calibrate next in the sequence of fire. Death is the only remaining desire. Axes are waiting for close range combat. Calculation complete and I leave it at that. Total elimination of biology cell. Send a remainder to freezing cold hell.
Radius ulna locked in the stance.
Eliminate random, eliminate chance.
Radius ulna locked in the stance.
Eliminate random, eliminate chance. Eliminate random, eliminate chance. Target acquired. System reset. Logic endures. No regret.
runs inside of the veins, boots digging trenches in permafrost. Data is calculated, nothing is lost. And art calibration of shield to the right, vice to all input of approaching light. Iron is heavy, but tendons are taut. Victory purchased the moment we fought. Locking elbows with the man to the left. Cerebral is coded by violent death. Blood freezing fast on the bronze-plated rim. Power is forced from the hardened limb. Iron is tearing the deltoid muscle. Fiber is snapping in mechanical to slay. Humerus bone is the structural post. Static remains at the northernmost coast. Scapula shifting to level the load. Execute command in the primitive code. Nervy bendings firing at maximum rate. Fixing the physics of station a restate. Locking elbows with the man to the left. Cerebral is coded by violent death. Blood freezing fast on the bronze-plated rim. Power is sourced from the hardened limb. Cartilage crushing where weapons converge. Feeding the system, the calcium surge. Radiosula locked with the ash. Countering all of the external crash. Mandible tightens on hardening grit. Absorbing the vector where metal is hit. Those light gen levels sustaining the drive. Keeping the biological hardware alive. Puncture the fascia, hold the position. To tolerance to system ambitions. Sever the network, stabilize torque. Geometry rigid in front of the fork. Spine is a column of stacked vertebrae. Holding the trench in the freezing gray. Hemoglobin is turning to slush. Stopping the momentum of any my rush. Ligament stretching, button core is deep. No voluntary concession to sleep. Entry or tissue is shredded to strips. Iron is powdered to white nucleic grip. Locking elbows with the man to the left. Cervical is coded by violent death. Blood freezing fast on the bronze-plated rim. Power is sourced from the hardened limb. Cause Mikey me try set in the frost. More calculation no matter the cost. System is stable. Wall is intact. Final adherence to physical fact. The neon green is flickering across the void. The weakness in the marrow must now be destroyed. My boots are calibrated to the surface tension. I move in silence through the frozen dimension. Blade is sliding from the leather and the sheath. I measure every rattling and failing breath. The logic of the iron is a cold command. I code the failing hardware with the steady hand. The data in the artery is turning black. I map the total failure on the northern track. Your ribs are bent, geometries of calcium. I strike the center like a heavy piston drum. Green light shifting in the dark sky.
Weak bone breaking where the men lie.
Zero friction on the black ice.
Cold steel paying out the fixed price.
I read the neural pathway for a sign of lag. The lungs are deflating like an empty bag. The solstice is a binary of dark and light. I am the processor of the longest night. I cut the tendon where the muscle meets the joint. I drive the vector to the final breaking point. There is no mercy in the laws of physics here. I wipe the buffer with the flesh and of the fear. The aurora is a phosphor on a broken screen. I keep the colon precise and I keep it clean. I count the cervical vertebrae one by one until the calibration of the war is done.
The long night is a circuit in the frozen mud.
We wipe the system with the pressure of the blood.
Access tracing out a perfect line.
The winter solstice is a hard design.
Grab encircling
The signal tower
final calling.
in the darkest hour.
No heat rising.
From the bone ash, only geometry and that'll clash.
I smell the iron iron oxidizing on the shield. I force the ligament and tendon now to yield. The camp is illuminated by the shifting glow. I leave no footprint on the hard and compact snow. The thoracic cavity is open in the air. I find the structural defect that is hidden there. The marrow weighs a battery that leaks charge. The failure of the system is appearing large. I tighten up the grip upon the wooden hilt. There is no emotion and there is no guilt. I calibrate the impact of the heavy strike. I kill the strong and kill the weakening alike. Friction check.
Mass and torque.
Vector set.
Blade at work.
Friction check.
Mass and torque.
Vector set.
Blade at work.
Gods and men, I reset the chronometer and start again. Your fammer snaps under the pressure of the boot. I am extracting every failure by the root. The synaptic gap is closing with the static hiss. There is no dawn beyond a frozen void like this. I am the algorithm written in the storm. I break the anatomy to find a purer form. The rumble in the throat is just a mechanic flaw. I execute the sequence of the northern law. The pelvis crashes into dust and powdered white. I am the master of the total dark at night.
The long night is a circuit in the frozen mud.
We wipe the system with the pressure of the blood.
Access tracing out a perfect line.
The winter solstice is a hard design.
Raven circling
The signal tower
final calling.
in the darkest hour.
No heat rising
From the bone ash, only geometry and metal clash.
The marrow is cold. The code is complete. Axis shift in the radius turns. Lactic acid in the muscly burns. Iron head reaches the sternum plate. Calibrat in the mortal weight. Tissue tear in the tendon snaps. Closing all the geometric gaps. Red spatter freezing in the cold. And synth hard where the grip will hold. Swing the iron. Swing the iron. Break the bone. Break the bone. Feed the circlet. Feed the circlet. Cold as stone. Cold as stone. Binary strikes on the ribcage grid. Up in the chest where the pupper is hid. Geometry of the chop and the slice. Freeze in the marrow. Too hard and dice. Forces effect of the angle is true. Cut in the nerve and the muscle and true. No variation. The loop is locked. Skeletal structure is totally shocked. This is the data of bone and dash. Feed the system the final crash. Macabre staircase. Higher we climb. Killing the clock and killing the time. Motion is ladder view, the axis the code. Maximum output, the bodies unload. Steel on stern on the flood is wet. Paying the fussy cow biologic depth. Knee deep in proximal femur and joint reaching the optimal breaking point. For arm is rigged, the car pause a tight burn in the fringe of the optic calcite. Spine after spine from the steps of the mound. Higher than dirt in the soft fallow ground. Mound the pelvis, a ribcage there. Climb the car cast, the lungs need air. Step on skulls to the temple cracks. Never stopping the motion of axe. Physics of murder. Physics of murder. Physics of murder. Physics of murder. Crushing the shoulder is gone. Working the engine from dusk until dawn. Overload senses, the morrow was dry. Look at the bread of the war-torn sky. You kneel the metal, the raven will feast. Feeding the number, the mechanized beast. Die bone to know now the pile is high. Under the dark of the Arctic guide. This is the data of bone and dash. Feed the system, the final crash. Macabre staircase, higher climb 'em out, but the bodies unload. Loop is the master. Loop is the master. Loop is the master. Loop is the master.
I reach the ceiling, enter through the gate. My axe is the algorithm of your fate. The geometry of war is drawn in red. I count the calibrated skulls of the dead. I walk the hall and crack the system code. Your nervous system buckles under the Lord. My iron heel meets the crown of gold. I shatter jewels, brims as was foretold. I crush the metal with my heavy soul. I seize the data stream and take control.
The king
is fat and weeping on the floor. Inside velvet cloth, I feed his marrow to the winter moth. The polished stone is slick with fluid drain. I map the fracture in his spinal chain.
Bone and ash, iron and lead.
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 Silk banners catch the flame in the hall.
Watch the entire architecture fall.
The echo of the wolves in the yard.
I strike the tendons and I strike them hard.
Square the geometry of every loss.
We do not calculate the human cost.
The marrow data bleeds into the dust.
We break the hardware and we break the trust. Tear the tapestry and light the wick. The optics of your empire were a trick. The silk is burning in a molten stream. I shred the cables of your golden dream. Your fat lords crawl on calcified knees. I download agony with perfect ease. I trace the nerves like wires in a wall. I watch the leaking valves inside you all. Your blood is nothing but a coolant leak. I cut the king so that the system can't speak. The echo of the wolves is in the court. I trigger the protocol of this report. I fracture every burn I pray you own. I strip the hardware from the ancient throne. I measure pressure on the shattered crown. I burn the southern kingdom to the ground. There is no mercy in the calibration. There is no soul in this configuration. Just the layout of the bones in the grit. Just the moment that the ligaments quit. I calculate the weight of your weeping, while the wolves in the courtyard are keeping the watch on the pyramid. Align your marrow and your tendons are mine.
Silk banners catch the flame in the hall.
Watch the entire architecture fall.
The echo of the wolves in the yard.
I strike the tendons and I strike them hard.
Square the geometry of every loss.
We do not calculate the human cost.
The marrow data bleeds into the dust.
We break the hardware and we break the trust. The crown on the iron road. The wolves are howling in the marble dark. I leave a cauterized and bloody mark. Distant crackle of dying flames.
The dry winter branch. Iron is closing the meat avalanche. Searing heat hisses on scarred callous skin. But geometry forces the fast in the ring. Kinetic potential is mapped in the gray. Bone marrow hardens to pave out the way. Strike the raw plate till it welts to the wrist. Logic is held in the clench of the fist. Strike the anvil. Strike the anvil. Leather straps pulled extra tight with the teeth. The ulna is screaming in acid beneath. Smell of the singed hair is picking the smoke. Nerve endings fire the circuitry stroke. Calibrate tension in tendon and joint. Death is the date to the only true point. Input the weight of the hammering gore. Physics are settling the ultimate score. Upgrade the failure and harden the frame. Bone is the fuel for the fossilized flame. Raw iron plates for the shattered and broke. Calibrate force in the black void smoke. Sine wave of violence and vectors of pain. Calculate, lost in the wiring of brain. I test the new weight on the anvil of oak. System is stable within the first stroke. Shattered my forearms to build them back cold. Geometry rigid and brazen and bold. Overdrive synapse and overdrive rip. Truth is the metal and flesh is the lip. Compression of vertebrae locking the stance. Warfare is data and never is chance. Radius aligned. Calibration complete on the physical plane. Logic has strangled the signal of pain. No more vibration, no more decay. Iron is ruling the biological way. Scars become interfaces welded in fire. Nerves become copper and nerves become wire. Striking the emerald to measure the shock. Skeleton turning from calcium to rock. Kinetic efficiency rising to peak. Metal is vital, a metal is bleak. Armor is crafted to marrow and vein. I am the master of physics and strain. Upgrade the failure and harden the frame. Bone is the fuel for the fossilized flame. Raw iron plates for the shattered and broke. Calibrate force in the black void smoke. Sine wave of violence and vectors of pain. Calculate, lost in the wiring of brain. Steel in the marrow, iron in the nerve. Everything functions, the purpose to serve. Strike. Strike. Back. Strike.
Iron and ice. Iron and ice. Calibration. Calibration. Mirror at the midnight hour. Absolute zero is the only power. Iron ribs casing the thoracic void. Heat signature is finally destroyed. Femur locked to the permafrost base. System overhaul in the digital space. Blood circuit freezing in the vessel wall. Hyperboreal protocol for all. Skin turning pale blue on the radius bone. Statue carved from the northern stone. Tibial plate fused to the lithic floor. Closing the valve at the cardiac door.
0 degrees
In the marrow of the bone.
ice. 0 degrees
And the king is on the throne.
ice.
Calibration complete in the geometry of war. Shield wall frozen at the physical core.
0 degrees
In the marrow of the bone.
still. 0 degrees
By the hard iron will.
still.
Anatomical logic in the frozen mud. Kinetic energy leaving the blood.
Frost creeping up
the neck to the cervical spine, mapping the grid of the optimal line. Vertebrae stacked in a deadly array, processing light in the spectrum of gray. Synapse firing in a frozen circuit. Cold is the data and I learn to work it. Ligament tension at the maximum load, reading the runes in the binary code. Clavicle frozen to the leather strap, falling into the atmospheric trap. Metacarpal clutch on the handle of steel. Only the physics is proven as real.
0 degrees
In the marrow of the bone,
ice. 0 degrees
and the king is on the throne.
Calibration complete in the geometry of war. Shield wall frozen at the physical core.
0 degrees
In the marrow of the bone,
0 degrees
by the hard iron will. Anatomical logic in the frozen mud. Kinetic energy leaving the blood. Exhaling a breath that turns into beat to snow. Thermal equilibrium is all I know. Eyes turning completely white in the skull. Vision is empty and the void is full. No shiver detected in the voluntary nerve. Maintaining the angle of the frozen curves. Scapula locked to the sternum plate. Hardware locked in a terminal state. Patella frozen in the kneeling position. Executing the zero sum mission. Phalanges stiffened on the axe shaft grip. Final release of the biological ship.
Cranium cold,
Axis aligned,
axis aligned,
pulse at the limit.
data refined.
No combustion.
No combustion,
No delay.
no delay.
Converting the organic to the inorganic way.
0 degrees
In the marrow of the bone,
ice. 0 degrees
and the king is on the throne.
Calibration complete in the geometry of war. Shield wall frozen at the physical core.
0 degrees
In the marrow of the bone,
0 degrees
by the hard iron will. Anatomical logic in the frozen mud. Kinetic energy leaving the blood.
Sub-zero logic in the marrow of the dome.
Sitting forever on the glacier throne.
Boom. Calcium hardening the chassis is set. Oxygen levels are a debt to be met. Vertebrae lock in the geometric chain. Cold in the system, no signal of pain. Snow accumulating on unmoving shoulders. Heart is the center, a clash of the boulders. Marrow is cooling, the liquid is ice. Death is a variable, pay up the price. Flesh is the border, the edge of the map. Nerves are the wiring, a thermal trap. Shoulders are heavy, a granite design. Physics are holding the base of the spine. Skin graying into slates. Iron will heartbeat like boulders collide. Joints grinding like tectonic plates. Power, stormborn witness to the final hour. Power, solid geometry, frozen in place. Nothing can shatter the line on this face. Calibrate radius, lock in the jaw. Bone is the standard, the natural law. Shield wall is binary, zeros and ones. Steel in the tendons, the mercury runs. Axe head is logic, a data point strike. Marrow is armor, the carbon fiber spike. Rib cage is girded, a titanium shell. Systemic freezing, a biological hell. Skin is a surface, a tectonic crust. Ancient machinery grinding the rust. Skull is a fortress, a process domain. Data is surging in every frozen vein. I am the monument. I am the monument. I am the monument. I am the monument. Skin grading into slate. Iron will heartbeat like boulders collide. Joints grinding like tectonic plates. Power, stormborn witness to the final hour. on this face. Joints, plates, stone. God's heartbeat sounding like boulders colliding. Ancient momentum forever abiding. Flesh into fissure, the granite is whole. Digital darkness replaces the role. Code of the ancestor, written in grit. Fire of the blast furnace never was lit. Cold as the engine, the feel is the frost. Counting the seconds, no matter the cost. Skeleton for a monument stand. Ruling the frozen and desolate land. Teeth of the ramparts, a white iron gate. Sealing the entry if it's already too late. Ligaments locking a mechanical snap. Caught in the winter, a biological trap. Scanning the horizon, the optics are dead. Only the granite is left in the head. Skin graying into slate. Iron will heartbeat like boulders collide. Joints grinding like tectonic plates. Power, stormborn witness to the final hour. Power, solid geometry, frozen in place. Nothing can shatter the line on this face. Skin graying into slate. Snow accumulating. Standing still. System offline. The vast grey code has swallowed the sun. The logic of winter has only begun.
On the peak where the oxygen thins, the warfare of atoms now finally begins. The marrow inside is as cold as the steel. I set the coordinates at which you will kneel. The wind matches tempo with every drum beat. I calculate death in the midst of the sleep. The ribs are compressing the lungs in the chest. The northern algorithm is put to the test. We are the storm with a limit of force. We are the ice in the final assault.
The blood in the tendons is frozen to glass.
No one is granted the records to pass. I map the trajectory out in the black. There is no return on this terminal track. The nerves are a network of cables and fire. I am the processor building the pyre. I calibrate pressure and harden the frost. The data of mercy is permanently lost. The bones of the mountain are shaking the floor. I open the gate of the cryogenic war. The hailstones are shattering visors of tin. The nerves of the enemy are wearing too thin. The geometry shirks all the mercy of old. The geometry functions in shades of the cold. The storm is the body, the storm is the mind.
Leaving the ash of the weak ones behind.
I overwrite ground with the weight of the soul.
Where the intent of the army will go.
The skull is a vessel for hardened data. We are the lords of the frozen strata. I measure the density found in the sleep. The corpses are calibrated and complete. The skeletons clatter like iron and gears. I filter the audio to stifle the fears. My fingers are weavers of lightning and hail. The hardware of nature shall never prevail. I run the simulation of slaughter and ice. The blood in the marrow is paying the price. I climb to the edge of the jagged white peak. My lungs are the bellows for havoc to speak. I shatter the silence with one final scream.
The avalanche wipes out the entire regime.
The storm is the body, the storm is the mind.
Leaving the ash of the weak ones behind.
I overwrite ground with the weight of the snow.
Where the intent of the army will go.
The skull is a vessel for hardened data. We are the lords of the frozen strata. I code the destruction with tendons and nerve. This is the justice the victors deserve. The spine is a pillar of calculated might. I am the master of infinite night. The valleys are flooded with bodies and gray. The laws of all physics are faded away. I sing of the heartbeat to match with the drum, to conquer the world that has finally gone numb.
The sun
Is the memory deleted and gone?
waiting for data to signal the dawn.
Vibration rising through the heavy boot sole. Dead king logic takes the motor control. Ankle hinge grinding on the permafrost plate, scanning the tundra for the biological weight. Ice locked marrow in the femur shaft bore. Calculated impact of the ancient war. Steel and iron in the nervous mesh grid. Ancient data where the kings are hid. Biomass freezing in the blue ice vault. Static interference is the glacier's fault. Kings under pressure in the diamond grid. Neural pathways where the torch is lit. Low hum shaking through the jaw and the tooth. Cracked ice bleeding the organic proof. Molar rectal from the sub-base core. Calibration run for the eternal war. Dun 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 dun. Cracked skulls encased in the sapphire glare. Carbon density in the mountain air. Orbital socket holds the frozen lens eye. Calculating angles of the winter sky. Rip spikes jutting through the pack, snow drift. Tectonic pressure in the glacial shift. Pistons pumping in the dead king's chest. Mechanical stasis is the only rest. Sinew snapping in the sub-zero void. Organic matter being slowly destroyed. Cortex flashing with the neon runic glow. Instruction sets for the army below. Runes glowing faint under the frost shell skin. Optical feedback with the gears begin. Etched in the granite, etched in the bone. Encryption key for the obsidian throne. Femur fracture under weight of the slab. Digital pulse in the surgical stab. Metatarsal rhythm on the glacier shelf. Physical data from the former self. Hinge joint blocking as the signal peaks. Nobody breathes and nobody speaks. Iron in the hemoglobin setting hard fast. Scanning the perimeter for the shadow cast. Low hum shaking through the jaw and the tooth. Cracked ice bleeding the organic proof. Molar rattle from the sub-base core. Calibration run for the eternal war. Iron, boom, steel, iron grid fusing to the skeletal frame. Synchronized destruction is the only name. Bone density maximum limit reach. Look more than perimeter finally breached. Shut up on the deep post beat, crushing the gravel in the heavy feet. Cranium lattice in the solid ice, slow luminescence, speaking from the wounds below. And the rhythm carved in the pelvic girdle, from the biological high-speed hurdle. Nerve and firing in the dead, tricked wire, unlocking the gate for the frozen fire. Climbing cool clatter as the kings awake. Visits and patrician for the kingdom's sake. Some column clicking like a here turn count, watching the geometry at the mountain mount. Radius and all in the iron grip hold, executing orders that were written of old. Scapular tension in the heavy my stripe, no more location for the living to hide. Telling grinding on the frozen leg bed. Binary instruction for the ancient bed. Carpal tunnel clicking in the weapon hand. Reclaiming the physics of the northern land. Juggling a stasis as the cold takes root. Audio input from the heavy boot. Cerebellum mapping the terrain ahead. Calibrating terror for the living to dread. Hum in the maxilla, hum in the jaw. Final execution of the winter law. Static on the horizon, static in the ear. Viking simulation is the end frontier. Runes at 100% capacity. Terminating biological opacity.
The geometry of death is written in the clay. The algorithm fails at the end of the day. I count the calibrated fractures in the spine. The broken ribs align in a symmetric line. No soul to scan inside the hollow thorax shell. Just the physics of the impact where the iron fell. I measure angles of the shattered femur bone. The frequency of violence is the only tone. Scanning the peripheral for biological waste. The mineral of marrow has a metallic taste. I map the rupture in the intercostal node, deciphering the output of the slaughter code.
Step 1.
Count the arrows in the timber skin.
Step 2.
Find the point where the blade enters in.
Step 3.
Measure weight of the severed head.
Step 4.
Audit all the code in the dead. Crunch of the frozen blood under the boot. Calculate the value of the withered root. Bone and marrow in the cold white ash. System error in the final clash. Geometry of iron in the frozen mud. Calibrating lighters of the stagnant blood. Nerves are stretched like a fractured wire. Depth of burning in the funeral fire. I ride the broadsword from the frozen rigor grip. The data leaks where the severed tendon slip. 40 arrows stuck inside a single splintered shield. This is the balance sheet of the burning field. Stepping over piles of the dismembered cavalry. Computing the kinetic mass of the tragedy. No honor in the rupture of the gastric wall. Just the laws of gravity that govern every fall. I strip the banners from the dead and stiffened hands. Extracting the utility of barren lands. The nervous system shorted at the final blow. The temperature is dropping in the blackened snow. Calibration complete. Total units 0. Scanning the carcass for the level of decay. The geometry of rot is moving this away. No mercy in the logic of the vulture eye. The physics of the earth demands the weak must die. Friction in the socket where the joint is torn. This is how the new era of the ice is born. I count the craters where the fire hit the earth. Measuring the void of what the killing is worth. The tendon is a cable that is mapped under strain. Rocket the viscosity of the crimson brain. Raiden suckling the vector of the killing zone. Pecking at the calcium inside the white bone. Pally every shatter in the cranial plate. The hard drive of the memory is clean as the slate. Stepping through the smoke to find the center of the mass. The lungs are full of charcoal in the poison gas. No pity for the rupture of the cardiac vein. Only the logistics of the permanent pain. Crunch of the frozen blood under the boot. Calculate the value of the withered root. Bone and marrow in the cold white ash. System error in the final clash. Geometry of iron in the frozen mud. Calibrated lighters of the stagnant blood. Nerves are stretched like a fractured wire. Depth of burning in the funeral fire. The data of the end.
The geometry of loss.
The weight of every shield. The data of the end.
The geometry of loss.
The weight of every shield. The data of the end.
The geometry of loss.
The weight of every shield. The data of the end.
The ink is frozen and the ledger is the red. Scanning complete, processing the void. Everything is broken, everything destroyed.
The scent of ammonia is thick in the air. I process the static of your total despair. My nostrils expand as I track the decay. I feed on the terror you exhale today. Your blood is the coolant that runs through the system. I count every heartbeat and I never miss them. The logic murder is burned in my sight. I calibrate shadows to swallow the light. I watch your hand shaking up on the parapet. You haven't accepted your processing yet. Your tendons are tight like a wire in the frost. I calculate exactly how much will be lost. Your femur will snap under physics of steel. There isn't a mercy or pity to feel. I inhale the despair as it pours from your veins. I am the program that breaks off the chain. I consume the trembling in the core of your bone. I rule the geometry of this killing zone. Fear is the load, fear is the load. The marrow is power for the final attack. I hit like a system crash and never look back. Your cortex is muffled, your nerves are on fire. I am the surge running through every wire. I see the adrenaline drain into the snow. I read the anatomy of your overthrow. I don't need the water, I don't need the grain. I harvest the voltage that comes from your pain. Your ligaments shudder, your ribs start to creak. I search for the hardware where the vessel is weak. I track the vibration of teeth in your skull. The signal of courage is starting to lull. I measure the distance from max edge to neck. I am the error, the unkillable check. I scale the walls with a mechanical grace. I read the biological fear on your face. No mercy is stored in the drive of my will. I am the vacuum that reaches the kill. A grim smile is cracking my lips in the cold. The story of breaking is all that is told. I inhale deeply the scent of despair. I am the glitch and the total nightmare. I consume the trembling in the core of your bone. I rule the geometry of this killing zone. Fear is the load, fear is the load. The marrow is power for the final attack. I hit like a system crash and never look back. I smell your terror. I never look back. I am the last data point. Snap the joint, snap the joint. Hardware failure, absolute zero.
Iron boots hit the stone floor hard. The library is the execution yard. I rip the ribs from the shelf today. The ancient data is rotting away. Spinal columns of the binding snap. I erase the geometry of the map. Bone marrow leaks on the silver ink. We are standing on the binary brink. Vellum is skin stretched thin and white. We recode the dark with burning light. I crush the nerve of the geography. This is the logic of autopsy. Calibration of the killing floor. We don't need the history no more. Physics of the flame begin to rise. Data is bleeding from the dead men's eyes.
Crush the globe with the mailed fist.
Nothing remains in the system.
Parchment curling
In the flames, erasing the lands, erasing the names.
ink melting off the ancient border.
New calibration, new world order.
Smell of burning vellum.
In the air, the code of the ash is all that is there. Tremor snaps like a dry pen quill. The laws of physics obey my will. Geometric patterns in the blood. The old world drowns in the marrow flood. I calculate the radius of the blaze, ending the limit of the ancient days. Tendons tight as the parchment shrinks, severing the chain of the missing links. Binary sequence in the chart remains, cleaning the virus from the frozen plains. Nerve the firing as the border dies. We see the numbers in the empty skies. Scuttle the world is under my heel, writing the paper with the weight of steel. Cartography is just a flesh wound now. Wipe the oil from the conquer brow. Synapse firing in the smoke and dust. Everything relic is buried in rust. Hardware crunches, the compass breaks, feeding the fire with the old mistakes. Ribcage cracking like a wooden hull, empty native from a shattered skull. No navigation in the smoke we breed. Logic is the only law we need.
Crush the globe with a mailed fist.
Nothing remains in the system.
Parchment curling
In the flames, erasing the lands, erasing the names.
Ink melting off the ancient border.
New calibration, new world order.
Smell of burning vellum
In the air, the code of the ash is all that is there.
No return.
No return.
System burn.
System burn.
0 point logic in the shattered glass. Watching the shadow of the ancestors pass.
Nerves are cold. Nerves are cold.
Stories told.
Stories told.
We delete the marrow of the latitude, replacing the meridian with magnitude.
I know Flipper with hexagonal vein. We are the masters of the digital pain. Coordinates melting in the furnace blast. We are the geometry of total death. Adamant open to the winter gale. Ancient machinery is starting to fail. Calibration of the heavy axe swing. Listen to the wane, the Ivan ribs sing. These in the ash of the conquered west, putting the memory of raw flesh to rest. I am the coder of the frozen waste. Removing the boundaries with deadly haste.
Crush the globe with the mailed fist.
Nothing remains in the system is.
Parchment curling
In the flames, erasing the lands, erasing the names.
Ink melting off the ancient border.
New calibration, new world order.
Smell of burning vellum
In the air, the code of the ash is all that is there.
I stand at the summit where the data is cold. My tendons are copper and the marrow is gold. The wind is a signal that I cannot feel. My ribs are the casing of the hardened steel. The blizzard is coded in the language of hate. I calibrate gravity to level the weight. 0.0 is the baseline law. My fingers are talons with no room for a flaw. Frostbite is mapping out a grid on the chest. I am the hardware for the ultimate test. The snow hits the skin and it turns into mist. I am the logic that does not exist. My nerves are a network of fiber and fire. I climb the geometry higher and higher. No meat and no weakness, just iron and grit. I am the program that will never quit. Snow melts down on the iron skin. The logic of winter cannot enter in. Absolute zero in the marrow and bone. King of the glacier on a granite throne. No shiver, nothing, just a still in the storm. The physics of power in a human form. Eyes fixed open on the gale and the black. I am the peak and I never look back. My femur is granite and my spine is a beam. I am the glitch in the biological dream. The blood is not liquid, it is oil and code. I carry the burden on the binary road. No shivering fiber, no tremor in hand. I am the monolith that rules over land. The atmosphere and pressure is data to process. I am the vector of the eternal progress. My metabolism is a calibrated flame. I have no ancestor and I have no name. I am the geometry of ancient dread, where lesser men perish and leave all the dead. The rib cage is locked like a vault in the deep, while the rest of the world is falling asleep. My nerve endings record the velocity shift as I stand in the eye of the infinite drift. Snow melts down on the iron skin. The logic of winter cannot enter in. Absolute zero in the marrow and bone. King of the glacier on a granite throne. No shiver, nothing, just a still in the storm. The physics of power in a human form. Eyes fixed open on the gale and the black. I am the peak and I never look back. Calibrating the heartbeat, 0 pulse. Calculating the friction, 0 force. The marrow is frozen solid. The geometry is perfect logic. My eyes do not blink in the shrapnel of ice. I am the gambit and I am the dice. Of the cast is the lungs of the drive. I am the only thing left that is alive. The data of dying is deleted and gone. I am the shadow of the perpetual dawn. My skin Bone is the interface, my blood is the wire. I am the ice that is brighter than fire. No clothing, no shielding, no armor, but truth. I am the ancient and I am the youth. Snow melts down on the iron skin. The logic of winter cannot enter in. Absolute zero in the marrow and bone. King of the glacier on the granite throne. No shiver, nothing, just a still in the storm. The physics of power in a human form. Eyes fixed open on the gale in the black. I am the peak and I never look back. G on the tree of survival. Calibration of the rival. Zero shiver, zero weakness, zero pulse.
Iron grinds on iron on the frozen shelf. I am the program restarting itself. Calibration is set to the 0 point dead. Binary judgment leaks out of my head. Femur is snapping like frozen oak wood. Everything functioning just as it should. Hardware is heavy and caked in the grime. Ending the sequence and ending the time. Vertebrae clicking in militant rows. This is how every new algorithm goes. Axing the flesh is the input of pain. Clearing the cache and the fill to the brain. Cartilage crushing beneath the steel boot. Digging the dead out down to the root. No more room for the meat and the breath. Calibrating the geometry of death.
Raise the hand,
Kill the man.
the chain will rattle.
Rattle.
The raven battle.
Chains rattling hard on the edge of the pit. This is the only code that will fit. Men pushed to the brink in the digital void. Every last organic cell is destroyed. Fingers are clutching and nothing but ice. Payment is rendered and this is the price. Nerves are on fire with electric decay. Nothing remains at the end of the day. The long silence follows the weight of the fall. Nothing is echoing back from the wall. Death is measured in the time that it takes before every ribbon, every bone breaks. A raised hand is signaling end of the bone drop. Like a key into sectors unknown. Marrow is frozen in cylinders deep. This is the promise the ancestors keep.
No free songers left in the glacier ghost.
Rending the marrow to pixels in motion.
The raven is scanning the geometric plane.
The ice is the data in every brain.
The ice is the logic, the ice is the law.
No artery exists in the temple of
The new world of stars is forged in the steel.
Calibrate tendons for the turning wheel. Breath Henny still in the fleeting air void. The old world mechanics are fully destroyed. Lungs are just bellow saw pushing out smoke. Life is a glitch and the logic is broke. Teeth are clattering rhythms of fear. The signal is becoming perfectly clear. Calibration of meat into blocks of the cold. Writing the script is the ancestors told. Shows with the heavy the metals defer. The vision of slaughter is starting to blur. Nowhere to sharpening into the grid. Opening up out the old god kid. Muscle the pistons that drive the machine. Keeping the frozen wasteland clean. No room for captives, no room for the weak. The tongue is the only part left that will speak. This is sister starter in the size tempos. Nothing human, nothing else. The rest is open, the code is set. The ice is due for every death.
Tendons stretch
until they snap.
Welcome to the
Nordic track.
no pre-sunners left in the glacier gulch.
Trending tomorrow to pixels and mulch.
The raven is standing the geometric plane.
The ice is the data in every brain.
The ice is the logic, the ice is the law.
No artery exists in a temporal
The
bone.
new world of stars is forged in the steel.
Calibrate tendons for the turning wheel.
Hey! Storm! Storm! Feet fusing deep in the granite floor. I don't seek the open sea anymore. Bedrock merging with a calcified heel. Flesh turning cold as the hard and steel. My tendons tighten into braided wire, extinguishing the last biological fire. System reboot to a static state, locking the joints underneath the weight. Geometry perfect and the angles right. Scanning the void in the dead of night. Anatomical frames in the fixed position, executing the final eternal mission. No more pulse in the radial vein, just the physics of the ice and rain. Cold code locked in the marrow bone. Storm King fixed on a granite throne. Geometry crushing the organic form. Monolith rising inside the storm. Stormborn. Calibrate the eyes to the gray horizon. The ice is the king that the land is prizing. Nerves converting into copper leads. I have no hunger and nothing bleeds. Thoracic cavity turning to slate, calculating the pressure and atmospheric. My ribs are rafters in a hull of shale, unmoving skin against the cutting gale. Data streaming through the occipital lobe, frozen monument on the edge of the globe. Every vertebrae is a clamped device, fused to the mantle and the blackened ice. Biomechanics in a total freeze, ignoring the shaking of the brittle knees. Alignment set to the northern star. I am the limit and I am the bar. Calibration of the skeletal grid, doing exactly what the physics bid. Bone to boulder and blood to brine, crossing the final biological line. Fixed, frozen, locked, still. Cold locked in the marrow bone. Storm King fixed on the granite throne. Geometry crushing the organic form. Monolith rising inside the storm. Stormborn. Calibrate the eyes to the gray horizon. The ice is the king that the land is prizing. Lungs taking one final massive breath, cancelling the logic and the laws of death. Eyes calcifying into gray flint, capturing the sun with the stony glint. Eyelids welded to the optic nerve, final command that I have to serve. No more blinking in the blinding white. I own the vision and I own the sight. Data sets frozen in the frontal cortex, standing the moves in the weight of vortex. Fascia hardened into layers of quartz, losing the system and the external ports. No metabolism to waste the power. I am the clock and I am the hour. Ligaments fossilized into the glyphs. Body is monumental, body is stiff. Scapula locked to the shoulder blade. This is the contract that the nature made. Spinal column is a pillar of solve, bringing the motion to a total halt. My marrow is iron and my sinew is glass, watching the centuries and the eons pass. Cold locked in the marrow bone. Storm King fixed on the granite throne. Geometry crushing the organic form. Monolith rising inside the storm. Stormborn. Calibrate the eyes to the gray horizon. The ice is the king that the land is prizing. Old snow piling up to the stiff and jaw. I am the standard and I am the law. White drifts climb to the flintstone eye. Underneath the heavy and the iron sky. Total stasis in the northern zone. Just the monolith and the frozen throne.